This is Sandy Baird, and this is Commentary. One vast cry should arise from women and from men who love them all over the world. Me too. That cry should be coupled with the demand that the perpetrator-in-chief, President Donald Trump, arguably the most powerful man on earth, must resign. From all parts of the globe, women and girls have reasons to say, me too. They have all been abused, and that abuse must stop. In every religion and every nation, women suffer discrimination, second-class citizenship, violence, sexual abuse, and exploitation. In most societies, women have no choice over whether or not they will engage in sex or will become pregnant, or whether or not they will have the right to terminate those pregnancies, forcing them to be mothers against their will. Everywhere, females have little or no control over their destinies and over the most important decisions of their lives, whether they will engage in sex and whether or not they will become mothers. In many parts of Africa and Asia, girls are genitally mutilated, with parts of their genitalia removed or cut, so that they are robbed of their capacity to enjoy sex or receive pleasure from what should be the most loving and joyful experiences between people. These operations, called female circumcisions, serve no other purpose than to control females, to keep them from running around, to keep them locked to one man, without hope of ever experiencing the greatest of human pleasures. In many parts of the globe, women and girls are forced into marriages without their consent. These marital contracts are often executed by the parents, who negotiate the details of these agreements for the children without their input, and they amount in many cases to the sale of females to another family, where the wife suffers, often under the control of a too often abusive set of in-laws. Too often also, the sale is of a very young female or a girl to an older or old man who regards his wife as a reproductive commodity, charged with the production of his heirs. And what about the woman or girl who wishes to live without men, who desires to live singly or in a lesbian couple? In most societies, single women, gay or straight, and widows are the most vulnerable to abuse and neglect, and without any protection of community. Without an attachment to men or without a childbearing role, their existence are considered irrelevant, weird, and worthless. But doesn't misogyny only exist in third world, underdeveloped, and undeveloped non-Christian countries? Hasn't the West, Europe, and the United States gotten past misogyny and recognized that women's rights are human rights? Let's look at the record of the United States and the Americas. If you are a female of a certain age and grew up in a state dominated by the Roman Catholic Church, like our neighboring state of Massachusetts, you probably grew up without birth control or abortion. In Massachusetts, birth control was illegal for all people, married or not. A boy or a girl, a man or a woman, could not obtain the slightest instrument to prevent conception, neither pill, nor diaphragm, nor condom, until the United States Supreme Court case Griswold v. Connecticut in 1969, a young boy, and especially a young girl, who acted on their natural impulses and hormones to engage in sex, became trapped by their urges when the girl was, quote, knocked up, unquote, or became with child. The male partner, too, was cornered, but the girl essentially was doomed to a future where she was mandated to be a mother in a shotgun marriage, or a single mother without any welcoming community, or emotional or financial support, or a mother without a child because she was forced to give up that child for adoption. In that pre-birth control era, mothers were humiliated and exiled from their communities, forced to linger in their pregnancies in punitive homes for unwed mothers, and their children born out of wedlock were considered illegitimate, or worse, bastards, without the legality given to children born with a known father. Abortion was illegal in most of the United States till 1973, and the United States Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade in 1973. Prior to Roe, case of Leahy versus Beecham in 1972 made abortion legal in Vermont. And these pioneering cases made women throughout the United States finally moral agents capable of exercising their consciences freely and to determine whether they would terminate the pregnancy. As Governor Howard Dean once said, abortion finally became a private matter between a woman and her doctor. But abortion and birth control remain contested territory here. After Roe, a vicious backlash against women's rights to determine the courses of their pregnancies erupted, causing at times the invasion and destruction of women's clinics and the murder of doctors who performed abortion. The fight against women's rights continues unabated, and with the election of Donald Trump, who now appoints the Supreme Court and other courts, that fight threatens to turn women and girls back to the days of back alley abortion and rising death rates. For regardless of anti-abortion strictures, women have never nor will ever stop struggling to control their own biology and therefore their own destinies. In the West, moreover, violence against women, domestic, sexual assault, rape, harassment, and discrimination only rises. On January 20th this year, 1 year since Donald Trump took office and 1 year since the famous Women's March, and on International Women's Day on March 8th, shout "Me Too" in one loud voice, and demand that the emperor of the largest empire on earth, the American Empire, and the predator-in-chief of that empire resign for his outrageous behavior toward women. What a wonderful day if women and all those who love them finally and effectively said in one voice, enough. This is Sandy Baird, and this is Commentary.